Hey, what's going on, YouTube? So it's been a very long time since we did one of these, but we finally got a podcast going, and today we actually have one of my favorite YouTubers, Michael. You might know him. He's got a 60K sub channel, and he's actually got a creator code, which is really cool. He's a big lore YouTuber, so we got Michael, and we are going to be talking about the newest update, the Classic Brawl update that just came out. So, Michael, what's up? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing awesome. So excited to have you on the channel. So, let's start with a little introduction for yourself, because while you are a bigger YouTuber, not everybody knows who you are. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, of course. My name is Michael. You may or may not have seen me in the community, mostly focusing on lore. I've been covering Supercell games for approximately 3 years now. I did Clash Royale originally and a bit of Clash of Clans, and now I've sort of geared fully to Brawl Stars. As I mentioned earlier, I mostly focus on Brawl Stars lore content, but at the moment it's sort of been on like the low, so I'm trying to expand a bit into multiple different content styles, and yeah, I've been an avid Supercell fan since I was quite young and always interested in like the content creation side of YouTube. I experimented a bit when I was younger with just like screen recordings and that kind of thing, and yeah, I've kind of taken it to the next level where I create more content, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome. So, what attracted you to not just Brawl Stars, but also just like the lore of Brawl Stars?
You know, as a kid, I've always liked sort of like the mystery elements of even like films and like TV shows. I've always liked solving things, and I feel like the lore is just like a great place for that. Like, there's some games that don't really like go into that enough, and I feel like Brawl Stars has done that like excellently. Like, they've really dived deep into the lore of not just the characters, but like the game and the theme itself. So being able to kind of dive into that a bit with my own content and fulfill that kind of theme in my community is kind of like what I think is pretty great.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's like super unique, especially for a mobile game. As far as Brawl Stars, is like how much thought and effort they put into at least some of the brawlers. Some brawlers obviously have a little less lore behind them, but then you have brawlers like Colt or Spike or Gale that have like these crazy backstories, and I think that's super interesting. I think though it does feel like you said, like there's been a lot less lore as of late, because like ever since they cut off the live streams, or the WKBRL streams, we haven't really gotten a lot too much after that.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's just jump right into our first topic, and that's going to be how we're currently feeling about the game. How about you, man? How have you been enjoying the Brawl Stars lately? It's been like crazy highs as of lately, and it seems like it's not falling down. So what's your experience with this?
Honestly, I think it's kind of in the best spot it's been in like a long time. Like, I sort of compared back to the Star Park days, like 2020. That was like, I feel, the peak year for Brawl Stars. Like, every update was hitting and the community was engaged, and I feel like we're at that point now. Like, within like COVID era, I feel like it fell a bit. Like 2021, 2022 was sort of the low point of Brawl, and I feel like ever since then, they've upped their game, and each update has just gotten better and better and better. And yeah, I wouldn't argue if someone said like Brawl is in the best state it's ever been, because honestly, it kind of is.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it seems like every update gets better than the last one. And like, as a pessimist, I normally like a big part of my YouTube career has been like just dunking on Brawl Stars during that 2021, 2022 era. And like, people got really mad at me for a very long time, because I would just be like, man, this update sucks. Like, there's so many things they could have done, and instead we're just getting a pass update and a brawler, because it felt like a lot of our updates were just like that.
Yeah.
But ever since, I would say, early last year, like right after, was Star Drops last year? I think it was early last year. Ever since the Star Drop update, and then they brought Hypercharges, it's just like everything has been like on a steady increase. And now we're actually getting new game modes and stuff, which I think is the one thing that I was like always pointing at and complaining and being like, we're getting all this stuff, but like we need game modes. And now we're getting 3 this update, which I think is insane.
Yeah, 100%. I like that they're going outside the box. I feel like Clash Royale is at its lowest because they're not experimenting enough. They're not trying new things. They're just staying within the kind of 4 walls they've always been in. And if they don't experiment, they're not going to reach a level that they need to be to exceed. Like, they're not gaining enough of an audience just because they're staying within what they've always done. And I feel like Brawl Stars is taking those risks more, and that's why it's benefiting them in the long run, because we've seen like the mutations update. Like, at the beginning, a lot of people were skeptical because they're like, what is this? Is this a permanent change? And we saw that no, it was only like a temporary thing. And for the most part, I think it was well received. There were some brawlers that got like super broken ones, like Rico in the Godzilla mode. But apart from that, I think that was just a great sort of dipping your toe in the water sort of thing, just to see how it works, and then in the future doing like bigger events where they can expand even more.
Yeah, the mutations was such a weird, like thinking back at it, like I wasn't the biggest fan of mutations at the time because, like you said, some of the brawlers were just absolutely insane and they were just like way too strong and it made it unfun to play. Specifically, Rico and Ruffs, they made the game very unfun. But the idea of mutations, looking back at it, is absolutely nuts because it's like you went through all the trouble of making these what was it, 30 mutations, making a whole new game mode, and then gave it to the community and had us get all these, and then you just removed it 1 month later. And it's like, what other game company would really do something like that? It's very interesting. And like you said, it's like a good experimentation for if they want to add something similar to it in the future. Like, say they want to bring mutations back as a modifier for like Mega Pig or Ranked or whatever. I don't know how they would go about adding our mutations back onto our account, or if they would just junk everything and start from scratch. But like, they know the idea works now.
Definitely see that, like what you mentioned, bringing it back as like a temporary modifier again in the future, because all the work they put into that, I don't see them just permanently scrapping it and like never returning. They put effort into, I feel like, just test it and then see how the community reacts, and if it was like majority liked it, then yeah, and like in the future bringing it as like a temporary like weekend mode, maybe they incorporated it somewhere there, or like you said, Mega Pig as well. I think that's like a perfect idea for that.
Yeah. If they do bring it back, I would love to see them rework like some of the more toxic ones, because it just made, that's the only thing that I can say was like terrible about it. Like the skins were great, the event, even the mode was kind of fun. That Super City Smash, those handful of brawlers just made the game mode a little bit unfun. So like if they reworked those and brought it back, I think it would be a lot better. Was there anything else from last season that like you were like, or not even just last season, just in general that they've done lately? Is there anything else that you're like super excited, like happy that they tried or did?
Yeah, so I kind of like formulated a small list here on like things I like, dislike, and I'm sort of mixed on. So we can start maybe with like the mixed thing, and I feel like you might agree with me on this, is the new brawlers. Personally, I like that they continuously add new brawlers, but I feel like they're sort of lacking in the uniqueness of the gameplay. Like from Lily, for instance, I felt very like disappointed. Like, I felt like they rushed that brawler, and the mechanics themselves were just kind of, like, underwhelming. Like, it's basically gray, and I feel like Barry is kind of the same way. Like, the difference is I do like Barry's character, and I feel like they always knock it out of the park when it comes to the characters and, like, their backstory and that kind of thing. But I feel like their mechanics are getting a little stale. Like, we've seen that throwing with the multiple damage with Willow, and we've seen the healing with Byron, and we've seen that thrower mechanic. I feel like they need to experiment a bit more with like the brawler mechanics. So I wonder how you feel about that. Are you kind of in the same boat as me?
Oh yeah, I 100% agree that like they pump out brawlers nonstop, and like I understand like back in the day, like when we expected brawlers in the Brawl Pass, that like they felt like they needed to do that. I don't think they really need to do monthly brawlers anymore personally, because our roster is so filled now that like doing monthly brawlers almost feels like a waste. Because, and like a big thing about it, like you said, is the mechanics. Like there's so many brawlers that have duplicate mechanics when compared to like some of the older brawlers that felt a bit more unique. Like when obviously like the game was like super new, but when like Leon came out, he could go invisible, and that was like super unique, and it's still generally unique. The only other brawler that can tie invisibility to their kit, like true invisibility, is Sandy, and that's because, you know, he's got his super. But then you have brawlers, like you said, like Barry has the healing that's kind of like Byron, kind of like Decapo Poco. Meg and Draco, they're very similar in that like their super transforms them. You know, obviously Meg a little bit different because, you know, she jumps into her mech, where Draco is a timed one on his dragon. Ruffs and Rico with their bouncing shot mechanics, like those are very like treaded on each other. So, like they're constantly doubling down on mechanics for certain brawlers, and it does get a little bit annoying after a while.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the same even with gadgets. Like if you compare gadgets, like I feel like Tick has one that's like a shield and then does knockback damage, right? Like he like puts like a shield on and then it pushes enemies back if they're in like a close range, right? I feel like Lou's gadget is just like a worse version of that, and I feel like they've gotten sort of, like, I don't want to say lazy because that sounds kind of harsh, but I feel like they've gotten like lazy with the gadgets where there's just like a basic shield and like a dash and like a knockback. Like I feel like we've gotten that enough that they need to explore options. And then there's like clear like dominant gadgets that are fill the same niche, but one that just does damage when it knocks back. And it's like, well, that's clearly that gadget just with damage, and then that just makes that one even more superior in comparison to the other one. So I feel like they got to be a bit more like they got to explore a bit more with like the gadgets as well.
Yeah, and like there's other gadgets that are just like rip-offs of like they're like budget versions of supers. So like Lily's gadget is just a budget version of Cordelius's super. Leon's second gadget is a budget version of Sandy's super. So like stuff like that also exists too. It's like, you know, they keep recycling mechanics, and then, like you said, lazy is a harsh word, but there's definitely a bit of like just like unoriginality in some of the way these brawlers are designed. So I'm a big believer that they should slow down a little bit on brawler release schedules and try to make them less common, like coming out, but more exciting and more like unique than they've been recently. What's the next thing on your list? Give me a like. What's something that you like that they've been doing lately?
On the like side, I have new themes, cosmetics, and modes. So that's kind of the same thing you were saying with like the new modes and experimenting there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with the themes, they always nail it out of the park with those. Like every theme is unique, comes with new background, new music, and I like that it's not just a theme, right? They take it to the next level by adding new theme music, adding new like maps to the theme as well, adding new backgrounds. Like they don't just like think of it like last minute and just like put it together.
Yeah.
It's something that you can tell they've put a lot of thought and effort in to wrap the brawlers around, and I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, I agree that like themes and stuff like that, they definitely do a good job with, like especially like as far as like tying skins to certain themes. Like you'll have a good background with good music, and then like they'll drop like just some fire, especially skins lately. Skins have been like insanely good. So like I don't know who they got making skins now, but they need to get a raise because they just keep cooking. But I will say that I kind of wish that when they did a season update, so like just this past season, obviously it's Cyber-Brawl. But then the brawler for this past season is Draco, and he's obviously not a cyber brawler, so I kind of wish that they would kind of tie a brawler to the season as well. At least like make loose references to it instead of it being like feeling like totally out there, you know? So like this season's not really a good example because we got Barry, and he's obviously tied to you know, the candy lore and all that. Candyland, I forget what we call it. So like, and then like the Lops Clancy tied to Paint Brawl or the Deep Sea, whatever. That those obviously aren't what I'm like complaining about, but like, yeah, like this specific season isn't like the best example. It is the best example. Like Draco is not a cyber brawler.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, lore and stuff, or theme wise and everything, they do great. I think one thing that I've really been liking that they've been doing are these big community events where like it'll be like recently we just had the Thumbs Up for Brawl community event where we had to use the thumbs up pin nonstop to try to get to, you know, the top, and like they also did Brawl Like a Girl, where it was like kills with female brawlers for Women's History Month, or Women's History Month, stuff like that. Like those community events have been like very solid, and I think it's actually a lot of fun, and it's something that you can complete passively. You don't need to go out of your way to do it, and you just get free rewards for the entire community. I think it's like fun and exciting, especially when we're cutting it close to the wire, just like we did with Thumbs Up for Brawl. Like we almost didn't get that final reward, and they were like doing hourly updates on Twitter about it, so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat there. The only difference, I think, is that I feel like they've been doing it a little bit too much. Like, I think last year they hit the sweet spot. I think they did like 2 events within the last year, like in 2023.
Yeah.
And I think the best part about it was that it was like it came out of left field. No one expected it, and it was like unique. Now it's sort of gotten to the point where we're kind of expecting it. We're like, okay, where's the next event? Where do I get my star drops kind of thing? And I feel that's sort of taken away its like specialness in a way, because obviously everyone loves free stuff and no one's going to complain about getting legendary star drops, of course. But I feel like that's the only kind of issue I might have with it. And that might just be a personal preference. I know tons of other people would not complain about that sort of thing. But yeah, that's just me.
I actually agree with you a little bit that like it was more exciting when they did less, but I'll also counter your point by saying they kind of put themselves in a position where they need to do it to try to compensate for certain rewards, because like to me, one of the things that they did the thumbs up for Brawl event for was to try to compensate for the fact that we didn't get a free Hypercharge because they removed Hypercharge Unleash. So now it's like they took that away to try to reallocate those rewards to be a more exciting thing. So like there's been several instances of them removing rewards to try to reallocate and try to make things more exciting. So you think like how they took bling out of they nerfed bling a little bit in ranked, and now it's all RNG. So now we have to get our bling from other places, or how the club shop got nerfed a little bit. Like I know they say like it's more, or it's about the same when you do Mega Pig twice a month or whatever, but we don't do Mega Pig twice a month. So like stuff like that. It's like they've like changed reward. They've shuffled rewards around so much that they need to kind of do these events just to try to compensate and try to keep the economy more or less the same without nerfing it, at least like overtly nerfing it to our like right to our faces. So you got anything more you want to praise or dunk on before we move on to this actual specific update?
Yeah, I got a few more things. One of them is Mega Pig. We briefly talked about it earlier, but I feel like it's sort of dead. Like,
what's Mega Pig?
I get bored of it. Yeah, I know. I think I play one game just so I get the rewards, and I feel terrible because my club is like carrying, and like I play that one game at the last minute just so I get the star drops. But it's just because it's not fun anymore. Like, it feels just like a ripoff of what Power League was and what Ranked is now, with those like you like go through the same sort of system before a match and then you play the match. I do like that it's only one game instead of like 2 games, like where you have to like win best of 3. So I do like that, but I feel like it's just gotten to the point where I don't even want to play it anymore, and like I like dread playing it. And I felt that way with Club League originally. I dreaded when the Club League time would come, and I'm like, oh god, I have to play Club League now. So I feel like they got to do something there.
100%. I definitely feel like Mega Pig needs some work and some love, because it just feels like such a chore, just like Club League did. You're a better person than me because I don't play any Mega Pig at all, and I don't make my club do it. But the people that do are definitely getting ripped off because we're not pushing up to a max pig or anything like that. So like they're putting in their effort. They're playing their 15-ish games or whatever. I can't remember the exact number because I never play it. But they're playing their games, and then they're just getting crap rewards, even though they went out of their way to do it. And I just don't care. I felt the same way about Club League. It just felt like a chore to me because I do feel like Club League was a little bit worse than Mega Pig was, because it was multiple times a week, where Mega Pig is just one weekend. But all the same, like it's the same in that Club League, like I said, multiple times a week. But Mega Pig, you got to sit down for a long session if you want to get it all done in one sitting. I know they give you a couple days to do it, but if you sit down and play all of your Club League Mega Pig games in one session, it's a long process, because you got to do the picking phase, you got to pick all your brawlers, and then you got to play out your match. I know it's not like no bans and all that, but it still feels like it takes a very long time to do it. And
yeah, 100%.
I think one of the things they could do to help address this is, instead of it being a separate event where it's its own thing and you have to play that, they need to tie it into either ladder or ranked and make it so you can play the game naturally and progress like all at the same time, as opposed to it being its own separate event, because I feel like that's specifically what makes it feel more chore-like. Because like if I say I'm pushing a brawler to rank 25, rank 30, and I'm playing passively with my friends and my team, then if I can do that at the same time as working on my club event, that is like that ties the game itself together, instead of it being like, okay, I got to do my Mega Pig and then go and do my rank 25. Like that just makes the whole game a chore. Alrighty, so let's start talking about this update. So, in broad strokes, how do you feel about this update? Are you hyped for it? Is there anything that it's lacking? Yeah, let me know your thoughts.
So, in a nutshell, I'd probably give it about an 8 out of 10. Like, I really like that they brought back the boxes, because that's one of the things that I was like originally against the removal of it. So, seeing it back is great, because I was one of those avid players that would like save up all the boxes and then open them all at once. So being able to do that again is just like a nostalgia hit, and I love it, honestly. I do have a few issues. Like they're like more like just like little nitpicks. Is kind of like what you said was the return to the OG like Brawl with the skins.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the skins are mid, honestly, because they're just recolors. And I speak for I feel like a large portion of players when I say it isn't great because with the way the Mega Box system is and Monster eggs were kind of the same way, but the difference was you unlocked mutations which you actually wanted. With this Mega Pig, you want to get like good stuff, and I feel like putting these like mediocre 29 gem skins in the mix just prevents you from getting the good stuff that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's sort of how I feel about that.
Yeah, I definitely get the point about the recolor skins because recolor skins are not that exciting, especially, well, I guess I have a hard time speaking for people who don't have the original versions of these skins. So like if you don't have the Mike skin or the Ricochet skin or, you know, the OG Shelly skin, if you don't have those, I guess getting the recolor is pretty exciting. But for us that do have it, it's not like we're going out of our way to get it. But I do think boxes coming back is nice in that it is just, I like these boxes better than the mutation or than the monster eggs because the main reward out of them is actual resources. So like we're grinding. So now we're getting gold and power points and maybe even gems out of them, which I think is a nice touch. Where with mutations, it was exciting and fun to get the mutations as long as you wanted that specific mutation. And the only downside to it was that they got removed at the end of the season. So, like I said in my W's and L's video, I spent all of my money, not all my money, but I spent money to get all the monster eggs, and I'm pretty much empty-handed at the end of it. I got a couple of skins out of it, but I never got the black variation of the Hypercharge skin for Buzz, and that's what like the big prize was, and I never got it, and I spent $60 trying to get, or I think it was $100 at the end of the day trying to get that, and I'm just empty-handed now.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I kind of felt the same way, like with the monster eggs. I purchased a few of those, like where you could get like 6 monster eggs for a certain amount of gems.
Yeah, the early ones.
And because it was like temporary, like the mutations, it felt like I was just throwing my gems away. Like unless I was going to use the broken brawlers and push them to like rank 30, I wasn't getting the full value out of it. And I know that's like a weirder way to look at it, but since you're spending enough gems, you want to feel like you're getting something out of it, and only having it for like 20-something days, I don't know, it felt like a waste to me. And for people like you, for instance, who like spent money, you must feel way worse about it.
I mean, to be fair, I spent the first batch of eggs I bought was for just getting the mutations early and testing it out so I can make a video to talk about it. So I'm 100% okay with that second half, or with that first half, and I definitely got more out of those first halves than I did with the second half of eggs. The second half of eggs I bought specifically because my club was very close to getting the club version of the Buzz skin. So I was like, well, I'm just going to put the club on my back and finish it up. So that's what I did. So that's why I spent the extra, I think it was $40, and ended up getting the last batch of eggs just for my club. But as far as like this time around, obviously I'm not going to, because there's no club event tied to it, I'm not gonna, even if they give me offers for mega boxes, I'm probably not gonna buy them. Maybe I might do one video just to make like a funny compilation of me not getting anything out of boxes, because like while we do like to get gold and power points, it's not the most exciting thing to get, so it would be something funny to complain about. But yeah, I think the box is coming back, and I like that boxes are coming back and being like mostly focused on resources rather than being focused on a temporary event or cosmetics.
Yeah, and I feel like us players knew that it was going to be temporary, but there were some people who actually thought they were going to like permanently bring them back, and like I knew that wasn't going to be the case. I knew it would be like an event like this or something like that, and I feel like if they're experimenting with this now, I don't see them like just never bringing it back. Like I mentioned with the mutations, I feel like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they do another event where boxes are back, and then they have an event like this.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is also them just experimenting a bit to see how it works. But man, we'll see.
I wonder if they're testing to see if they can bring back some other, or not bring back, but add on some form of RNG to do something very similar to boxes. So like how we're getting like star tokens and stuff. I wonder if they want to add another form of drops, like maybe more daily star drops or something like that, to try to see how it like does with the economy or something. I wonder if they're testing, like without like explicitly saying they're testing stuff.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And the way the system is, like from what we saw in Brawl Talk, it's very like organized. Like you collect them, you open up the box, it's on the side here. You can tell they put a lot of thought and effort into it. So that's why I feel like it's not just going to be a throwaway for an event. Like they do have something bigger planned for the future.
Yeah. So for me, about this update, I was super hype about this update. Like I think they're doing a lot of good things. Like I said, Box is coming back. I'm super excited for Paint Brawl in August. I think that's going to be one of the most exciting seasons that we've gotten in a long time. I think both the Brawlers are pretty cool. I was not very high on Clancy when I originally watched him in Brawl Talk, but then the other day I watched him on stream. I watched his sneak peeks and I was freaking out because this Brawler is nuts. So like we can talk about him a little bit later because further down the line we're talking about Brawlers specifically. But overall, like I'm pretty hyped for this update. How do you feel about the UI update? Because I know a lot of people are hating the UI update.
When it comes to the team change you're talking about, right? Like how they changed the way you join a team and that kind of thing.
There's a lot of things that are all over the place. So like they've moved Do Not Disturb into your settings.
Yeah.
And then like there's no team chat in friendlies now. And just like setting up teams and stuff, it feels a little bit more clunky. So like how do you feel about all that?
I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. Like it took me a while to find the Do Not Disturb button because I was getting like spammed invites and I'm like, I just want to like claim the freebie in the shop. Right. So I'm like looking in the settings for like the Do Not Disturb button. I'm like, what's this? Mute team invites, and then I click it and then it's the Do Not Disturb. Not sure why it says mute team invites if it's Do Not Disturb, right? It should say Do Not Disturb.
It sounds really weird, right?
Yeah. And in terms of like the team thing, it's like it's overwhelming, but I feel like over time we'll like get used to it. Right, because change is tough, and especially when it's something you've been used to for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Having it massively change like this is gonna take a while to get used to. So I don't think that, in a sense, is a huge issue. But yeah, we'll see. And in terms of like the team chats, I think you might know why they've limited that, like in terms of like free chat in the teams, because I don't know, players are kind of toxic.
Yeah. Toxicity. They probably got a lot of reports from people just like saying just like hateful and mean shit. So I can understand why they would want to limit the in-game chat a little bit, especially if they're trying to push like you joining with randoms into a team, because now you can pull your randoms into a team with you. So like you definitely run the risk of, when you do that, people like who don't know you and you have a bad game and they want to join a chat with you, you definitely run the risk of them just being toxic and making a bad game experience for you. So by limiting the team chat there, that's one aspect, like doing that. But I feel like if you're playing with people that are on your friends list, like they're actually on your friends list, that you should be able to talk. But also, I guess, like, because they made it so much easier to add friends now, maybe that's another reason why they didn't do that change, now that I'm talking about it out loud.
I was just gonna say, on the point of that like toxicity thing, one thing I find kind of funny is the way the kudos button is being used. Like instead of it being like this way to like congratulate a teammate for being like extremely good in a game, it's like used in the most toxic way. And like I do find it funny, to be honest, but like when it's you being the one like hit with those like flame thumbs up, it's like the reason. If you got like 0 kills and 8 deaths, you're gonna get like filled with the kudos bar. So
right, or if you miss a wide open shot in Brawl Ball, or you try to BM or whatever, and you get the flaming kudos, it's like, oh man. Right.
And that, honestly, I don't know who started that, like giving it to like the negative players, but now it's like become a trend. Like on TikTok, I see these videos of like people like missing the shot and then just getting like the mass kudo there, and it's kind of funny.
It's 100% like it doesn't really matter who started it. It was going to happen eventually. So it's like, it definitely feels like that was obviously not the intended way to use, but it was a very predictable thing that would happen, especially with like just toxic gamers in general, right? Like it's fun to be a toxic gamer until it happens to you.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Classic Brawl just a little bit, but how do you feel about the event overall? Do you feel like they're doing a good job with it? I know you mentioned you're not a big fan of all the skins, but like we didn't talk about the Hypercharge skin yet, which I think is very good. And there's also 2 new game modes tied to it. So how do you feel about all that?
I'm sort of mixed on it. I do like the idea of the Classic Brawl. Like I feel personally it's a great way to bring back the nostalgia element for the OG players. And with the addition of the mega boxes coming back, I like the idea of having temporary modes. Like they don't have to. I feel like they don't have to feel pressured for each update to be some mega feature that's permanently in the game. I like the idea of just experimenting with something temporary over time and then seeing how it goes. So I like that aspect of it. In terms of the new game modes, I'm sort of on the same boat as you. I like the one where you kill the player and you become the player. I don't remember the name of that one.
Drum roll.
Drumroll. I like that one. The other one, not a huge fan of. The one where you're just all the same brawler, because I'm like that. I feel like after one match, that's gonna be stale,
Mirror mode,
and you're just gonna be sick of it. So, yeah, that one. Yeah, I'm not too happy about that one, but yeah, you can't be happy with everything, to be honest. So,
right.
They're not for the most part, yeah, I think it's a win.
Yeah, they're not gonna kill it with everything in every single update, but yeah. Go ahead, continue. Do you have more to add, or go ahead?
The one thing I might add is in terms of the Mega Box event, I feel like it's such a huge thing for them to bring it back, and it's a big sort of step for them because they said boxes are removed permanently, never coming back. And the idea to bring them back for an event is great, but I feel honestly the event is too short. Like for this big event to bring back what was like the OG of the game to only last like a week and a half or something. I think it's July 12th to the 31st, so it's not very long. Like I thought it would be like the duration of the first season in July, so like the duration from the 1st to the 31st. But for it only to be just over a week or so, I feel is a little bit disappointing for me personally, because I was really looking forward to like having the boxes back for a while and sort of getting used to that. And I feel like you're kind of gonna get used to it for a few days, and then it's just gonna be kind of ripped away from you. So.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I understand that perspective, but like I said earlier, it's like it's kind of a game economy thing, all right? Like our main resource, or our main reward, or not the main reward, but like one of the big things we're going to be getting out of this is more gold, more power points, that type of stuff. And they can't leave that going for too long because we might just end up like breaking the economy overall. Like if we get like 20,000 gold over the course of the season, just of the 2 seasons, just from getting out of the boxes, and plus all the other stuff we were getting, it would be what they define as like a failure on their part, because like they want to keep, not keep us down, but they want to keep things relatively the same while doing fun stuff. So I feel like that's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in my opinion, as far as Classic Brawl goes, like I said, in my video, you mentioned it here, mirror mode just seems like a very mid mode. It seems like, again, we used the word lazy earlier, and we both agreed it's a little harsh, but it just seems very uninspired. You're literally just taking a mode like, all right, so what if we just give every player the same exact brawler? And like I said in my video, we already experienced that when we get new brawlers, because everyone gets the brawler on the same day now. So like, when we're all trying to push, I don't know, and next week it'll be Barry. When we're all trying to push Barry, you're going to have matches of 6 berries, and we all know how much fun or how unfun that can be. So, like I said, there's specific examples in mirror mode that will be fun. So, like 6v6 Piper, 6v6 Brock. I cannot talk. 6v6 Colt. I keep saying 6v6 is 3v3. 3v3 Brock, Colt, Piper. Those are going to be more fun than 3v3 Primo, Bull, and Poco. Like I said, is my nightmare, because like just 3 Pocos healing each other up and constantly doing damage is going to be obnoxious.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree with you there, and that's sort of where I'm at as well with the game modes. I do like the one with where you walk and you lay paint. I should know the names of this stuff because it's kind of like what I'm supposed to know. But
you got a code.
I have short-term memory loss, I guess.
I got you.
Yeah.
Paint Brawl. That's the one I'm the most excited about. That's further on down my list that we're going to talk about, because I was going to talk about that season later. But I mean, if you want to talk about it now, we can. Paint Brawl seems like it's going to be great. I love the idea. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I like that they didn't make it like Splatoon is like partially like from your shots, right? But they did it in Brawl Stars where you need to get kills, which I think is a good adjustment. And then they also, like I said in my video, they kind of tied it to Brawl Ball mechanics, where there's a ball that you can move around. So there's like 2 win conditions. So I think like it's going to fit into Brawl Stars perfect.
Yeah, 100%. And I could even see this like returning in the future, or even staying like a permanent mode in rotation, similar to kind of like Knockout like right now. So if it's well received, because from what we've seen, we don't know 100% how it's going to look when we're actually playing it, right? Because opinions can change drastically when you get your hands on it and you're able to try it out and stuff. So from the looks of it, it looked great. So I'm hoping that it's also going to be great when we get a chance to play it as well.
Yeah, it seems really well done in my opinion for the most part. And then drumroll, like you said, it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I was very skeptical about it at first, but after watching some of the sneak peek stuff and like looking into it a little bit more, it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. I was worried that it was just going to be showdown, but you don't get to pick your brawler. But now it definitely seems like it's more like more progression based, and you actually get multiple tries to get multiple kills. And depending on how far you move up the map and how many kills you, or how many the brawler track, that determines like how many trophies you get and stuff. I think that's a good mode. I could see that coming back seasonally once in a while, like making it like one of the voted on modes. But I don't see that ever becoming like a permanent like replacement for Showdown or anything like that. Okay, so Hypercharge skins. We didn't talk about that yet. How do you feel about this round of Hypercharge skins and like Hypercharge skins in general? So like both the Buzz one and now this Rico one. What do you think about the skin rarity itself, and then specifically about the Rico?
I think it's a great concept. It's a great way for them to experiment with more of the craziness side of skins, since Hypercharge is sort of like that upgrade. You can even upgrade like the way the character looks to like a degree we haven't seen in the game, and that's sort of what they've done. I feel like with the Rico skin, they've sort of taken it to the next level in terms of design, because like when you put the key in and he unlocks, he like turns into this like whole new character. And I think it looks like amazing, and I can't wait to unlock it. The Buzz one is pretty good as well. Like I feel like as its first skin, it's much more tamed in comparison to the Rico skin.
Yeah.
Like they kind of went all out with the Rico skin, which I like. And yeah, I can't wait to unlock that one too.
Yeah, the Rico one definitely looks a lot more flashy, and it's a lot more like exciting than the Buzz one. And actually, I think even like out of its height, like I'll be honest, the Buzz one, it's kind of not that exciting of a skin until it hypercharges, where the Rico skin looks really good to begin with, and then you hypercharge and it looks even better. So I think that's like a noteworthy thing about the Rico skins. I would say my only complaint about the Hypercharge skins is that if you don't get it out of a box, obviously we're all guaranteed, more or less guaranteed to get a free one as long as you get your 10 mega boxes. But if you don't get the chroma variations out of a box, if they want you to buy that and they want to charge, I think it was 700 or 800 gems for it, that is super overpriced for a skin, because that's like, if I'm not mistaken, that's like $100, which is an insane amount to be spending on a skin, just one skin.
And honestly, I don't even feel like the skin is great. Honestly, like I'm not gonna lie, it's a great skin, but I don't think it's worth 800 gems. I would probably maybe push it to 500, and that's still 200 gems more than the legendary skin. So you're still spending a lot more. And the only real time you're seeing the upgrade is when you get your Hypercharge, and you're only getting that like maybe twice a match if you're lucky. So
right. Like a good match might be 3 Hypercharges depending on the brawler or whatever. So it's like it's crazy like how much they want to charge for it. I agree, the price point is way too high, and I think I originally thought like 400 gems would be a good price. 500 would be the more realistic one, which I think is actually the discount price they charge, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they're just like super expensive, and I do feel like they're very hard to get too, because like I never pulled one out of all the monster eggs I got, and then according to all the big YouTubers, it's like less than a 1% chance to get the chroma variations of the Rico skin. If I remember correctly, I don't know if you remember or not, but yeah, they said it was like something super low, and it's like I understand it's the grand prize for the season and all that, but like it feels like it's not easier, but it feels like it should be something that's like plausible to happen, where if you give it a 0.3% drop rate, it just feels like you're never going to get it, and if you do, you're extremely lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Like I only got one Brock variation with the mutations, and it was the yellow one, and that was on one of my mini accounts. So my main account is like, I didn't get it. So I think
that's
like I'm hoping that doesn't happen this time around with the Rico one, because I do want the bling Rico skin, and I'm fingers crossed I get that one. But knowing my luck, I probably won't get it. I'll probably just get the 29 gem recolors, but I don't know. I have hope.
The bling Rico one's definitely my favorite too. That one definitely looks the best. I think it's just mainly because of the way the bling actually looks on the Rico itself, as opposed to gems are cool, and then like the game gems are like whatever. But I think the bling just looks the best. Plus, it's like a blue and silverish color, which I think is very more unique than gold and green. because like we already have loaded Rico, and this is just like a updated Hypercharge version of it.
Yeah, and at first, like when we saw it in Brawl Talk, I was worried because before it upgraded into like the like, I don't know what to call it, but like the excessive version, I'll just say. But before that, it just looked like loaded Rico.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this the Hypercharge skin? And then I was like, I was getting worried there because I'm like, people are just gonna like hate on this because it's like loaded Rico 2.0. But then you see the upgrade, and then you're like, okay, you can tell that it's very different. So
yeah, it does kind of suck that like loaded Rico still exists, and then like this Hypercharge variation is gonna exist. So it does kind of like, I talked about this in my W's and L's video, but it's like sometimes skins feel like they get obsoleted by other skins, and it kind of sucks. So I guess we'll pivot onto this. How do you feel about not only just Stellar Shelly, but like Urban Ninja Terra, Gamer BB? How do you feel about these skins that are exclusive skins, but they're getting updated and re-released to the public? Like, are you a fan of them, or do you think, or are you kind of like me, where it kind of like feels bad to the people who do have the exclusive versions, because like the exclusive versions are often upgrades to the exclusive versions?
yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you. I don't even feel it's necessary. Like that was back in 2019, 2020. There's no need to revisit those.
Yeah.
Those skins had their like time to shine. There's no need to just recolor it and re-release it. We've got tons of skins already in the game, and each update they're releasing like at least 20 unique skins. So I don't even feel that it's necessary for them to keep recoloring old skins. Like that was in the past. If you didn't get to play then that's kind of that.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way as you, that it's sort of unnecessary.
Yeah, this is one reason why I wasn't a big fan of the whole exclusive debate, because like you said, they're kind of just wasting their time redeveloping these skins that are that were supposed to be for exclusive people. So like I would have preferred them to, if they wanted to re-release the skins, they should have just re-released the skins, and exclusivity be damned. Like maybe give people who got the exclusive version a pin or a spray or something, or just any kind of compensation other than that. But recoloring skins just feels like a waste of time. And then I'm not a big fan of them totally remaking skins, because like I said, it just makes the original versions feel less. Like I know there's the argument for vintage, and like, you know, the people feel like it's a flex, but to me, it's not a flex to play a worse version of a skin. We're not talking about cars here that you can drive around. We're talking about skins in a video game. It doesn't make sense for me to want to play. I'm going to use Star Shelly as an example because I think it's the most egregious one. It doesn't make sense to play Star Shelly where she doesn't have nearly as flashy effects or any animations or even a spray or whatever. Like, as opposed to Stellar Shelly, where Stellar Shelly looks better because she's got, you know, newer graphics, newer update, newer art style. She's got way flashier effects on her, and her animations are a lot more fun. So like, Star Shelly is like the big egregious one to me, because that was supposed to be our prize for being like early adopters of the game, and now Stellar Shelly just feels like a newer version, you know?
Yeah, totally, and it's clearly better in every sense. So I feel like that it sort of did them dirty with like like they're not just like recolors, they're also like complete like skin effects and all this animations and stuff that's makes it clearly superior to the old ones. It's like, well, who cares you got the old ones? These ones are like 10 times better. So I feel like that's also, like you said, an issue that they need to sort of look into as well, is like you gotta think about the OGs. Like even though you're moving into the future, they were kind of what kickstarted your game to be where it is today, and you kind of have to stay loyal to them, and that's how I kind of feel on that. Like even me saying that, I don't even have the Star Shelly skin from 2018.
Yeah.
So
that feels.
I don't know. Do you have that one?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That was before I quit the first time. So like I if you don't know, I started playing the game right before Global, right at Global. I got Star Shelly skin, and then right when Rosa released, I was like, these devs have no idea what they're doing. They'll never balance this game. And then I quit. And then I came back during the Max and B season. So I quit for not that long. So, we talked about Classic Brawl. We mentioned the new game modes a little bit. Let's move on to the new Brawlers. How do you feel about the new Brawlers? So, whichever one you want to start with, feel free to take the conversation away. You can lead the way through Brawlers.
Sure. So, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I feel like Brawl Stars always like does great with the character designs, but like with the mechanics, as I mentioned earlier, with Barry being like sort of recycled. I feel like that sort of is a little bit disappointing. Like Clancy is unique in a way with his like shot mechanics, but one could argue he's just kind of like Surge. But I definitely see a distinctive difference with him. But with Barry, it's like Carl plus Byron plus Willow or Barley, whichever one you want, and that's sort of disappointing. So, but like, if we're gonna talk about the lore aspect, I remember seeing like, I think it was 2 years ago on the starpark.biz website, there was a unicorn horn. So I don't know if that like relates in any way to Barry, but there could be something there to look into further. And I think if it does, like if they sort of develop his lore further and maybe like make it an Easter egg in like a post or something, I definitely feel there's something more there to uncover. So I think that is interesting, and it's interesting, like, do they know that they have all this stuff? Like, in the investor video, we saw there were, like, gas masks, and then Cordelius was released last year. Like, was that a clear, like, sign that Cordelius was going to be released? Or are they sort of just paying homage to those sort of sneak peeks? Like, that's something a video could be on or argue about, is have they just, like, forgotten about that? Like, even though they're not technically scrapping the lore from 2019, 2020, like what's in that video, is it still relevant today? And that's something I feel someone could argue about in some sense.
Yeah, how much of the lore they actually did plan out. So yeah, my feelings about the Brawlers real quick in broad strokes. Barry, I really like Barry. I think there's a lot of tools in his kit that make him a very interesting brawler. But I do feel like he is very broken, like because he does so many things. I feel like he's definitely going to be a strong brawler. He just dropped today, like for the early adopters, for the people that want to buy the pack, at the time of recording this. So I don't think the verdict's fully out on him yet. But I don't see how this brawler isn't like super OP, because like you said, he's a thrower, so he can be pretty safe. He doesn't like, he's a short range thrower, but he can still hide behind walls and attack people. He can heal himself up. He can heal his teammates up. He's got a mobility super. And then when you factor in his star powers, which can either make it so that his ice cream pool lasts forever, it lasts 12 seconds, or he has one that where if he stands in his ice cream pool, he gets a reload speed buff, which is absolutely insane. So like either one of those star powers can be useful in certain situations, like in Heist, you're going to want to run that long duration one, but every other mode, you're going to have a reload speed buff. And then his gadget can either be a knockback or, I can't remember what his other gadget does. It doesn't matter. The other gadget was okay. So like his gadgets are decent. His star powers are both pretty decent. And then on top of that, like he just, like I said, he just adds a lot of team utility and stuff. So I just don't see how this brawler, like how they added all these things to this brawler, and they were like, all right, so we're not going to give him any drawbacks. And they were just like, low health. Like that's it.
I totally feel the same way. Like, I feel like they kind of overdid it in terms of giving him all these different things to do. Because at some point, you're going to be like, this is overwhelming. He heals himself, he heals from other people healing and that kind of thing. Like, it's kind of crazy, all the stuff he does.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, and to be an epic brawler too. Like, you know, like I know epic, like the rarity sort of consists of how unique the brawler is, but this guy's got to be like legendary 5 for all the stuff he does and all the stuff he has.
Yeah. I know they mentioned, I don't know how they feel about it now, but I know they mentioned rarity of brawlers is more tied to complexity of mechanics rather than uniqueness nowadays. Like they used to do it on uniqueness, which is why Crow and Spike were legendaries, where nowadays they may not meet that standard. But like now they lean more towards complexity, which is why a brawler like Chuck is a mythic brawler, and like Surge is like a legendary, because Surge, like, he's a weak brawler when you start, but as you steamroll and don't die, then he becomes much better. So like I think that's more of it. But yeah, like you said though, he does have a lot of, or like we both said now, he does have a lot of things in his kit. So you'd think that because he does so much, that he would be a little bit higher, at least a mythic, right? Because like Byron's a mythic. And he does a little bit more than Byron when you consider his star powers and stuff. And then as far as Clancy, like he seemed like a very boring brawler to me. I was a little worried about him, and now I'm worried about him in the other way, because they just were like, we need more damage. So now this brawler does all the damage. It's like, what were they thinking? And the fact that he doesn't downgrade at all is very concerning because, like, I thought one of the things that was really going to limit him is that after he died, he would lose all of his upgrades, which would be extremely limiting for any brawler that relies on their upgrades. You know, you see that with Surge. But now Clancy is another brawler that relies on his upgrades, but he never downgrades, and he's just gonna be able to do an insane amount of damage like all the time once he's fully upgraded. And one thing that has me actually really concerned between these two brawlers is Heist as a game mode, because if you let any of these brawlers get like on top of the safe, they're just gonna shred the safe. Like especially Clancy himself, he can do 23,000 damage with one super, and then his main attack too can do a bunch of damage. So he's just going to, like, destroy the safe in Heist if you let him get near there. And, like, we've had that problem before with certain brawlers like Bull and Spike in OG game modes, but it hasn't been so prominent as it is now. You mentioned lore a little bit on these brawlers. Do you have... I know you mentioned the Star Park investor video, but, like... and you've done videos in the past about Mandy and Chester. Do you have any ideas how Barry might tie into their trio? Like if he's going to be part of it or like obviously he's part of the trio, but like if he's going to be part of their lore or if it's just going to be like he just got hired there and he got sucked into this or something like that.
You know, I'm still sort of on like the brainstorming phase, but I feel like he could be involved in some way. Like the way they designed the brawler is kind of mysterious, like who's underneath the mask and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was intentional to his lore, like to figure out who he is and how he got there. So yeah, at this time, I'd probably say he has some sort of connection to them. I don't know how much, and I feel like that's something, like the more we get like animations and posts, the more we can kind of expand on that, but yeah.
So, real quick, can you, I don't know if you can do it like more or less quickly, but can you like give me like Mandy's lore and Chester's lore a little bit? I know you mentioned, like I told you before we started recording, I failed to actually do my research on those two specifically. So like I got a little bit into the Chester video, and you started talking about how like they were trying to kill him kind of like they did with Gus, but like he was too smart for them. So like, could you explain that real quick? Just I'm interested.
Yeah, so I can kind of like dive into it a bit. To be honest, I don't remember a lot what I said about Mandy, but for Chester, I remember mentioning something about him being a jester and how they have multiple sort of purposes, like not only to entertain like a monarch, for instance, but they also were used as like sort of ploys to like go in and infiltrate something and spy. So I remember mentioning something about Chester possibly being part of the Spewed Union and going undercover inside of the Candyland to spy and figure out what's actually going on there. So I think that's the gist of the Chester lore. And in terms of the Mandy, I don't recall exactly. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's okay, man. That's all right. I don't expect you to remember a video from a year and a half, 2 years ago, so that's okay. Yeah, that's interesting about Chester, though. So you think like maybe Barry could be in cahoots with Chester as well. So maybe he could be a spy or something like that, or maybe he's there to back Chester up in case something bad happens. That would be interesting. Moving on to the next part of the update, that would be Paint Brawl. Are you excited for Paint Brawl at all?
You know, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say not really. And it just comes down to sort of the reusing of the themes. Like it has, like, as I mentioned earlier, I like the game mode. Really unique, and I feel like it's going to be a great implementation in the game. But I feel like we've already visited the Deep Brawl, or the Deep Sea Brawl, and I know Clancy fits that theme, but I feel like last year we revisited the sort of Ranger Ranch theme with Pearl, and we already did that with Belle and Sam. So I feel like there's sort of like, I don't know, and I feel it has something to do with the change to the 1 month seasons. Like how do you sit on that? Like for me, I'm still mixed on that. Like I'm not a huge fan of the 1 month seasons. Like I know why they did that, to like make content, like to like release content quicker, and so that seasons don't feel as boring. But I feel like the way they have the 2 month update plan, I feel like after the first month, the content sort of run out, and you're basically just, the second month is just waiting for the Brawl Talk for the next month. So that's how I kind of sit on it, and I guess it doesn't have to specifically deal with the Deep Sea Brawl season. It's sort of like a general consensus on how I feel. But I feel like since we've already visited the Deep Sea Brawl, that's sort of where I stand on it.
Yeah, I'm actually the opposite. Well, as far as like the monthly seasons, I'm more of a fan of the monthly seasons because I feel like a lot of people during the 2-month seasons, at least me specifically, and I know a bunch of the people that I talk to like on a regular basis, they felt like the 2-month seasons were too long, and after the first like 6 weeks, the last 2 weeks of the season just felt super stale, and like you were just kind of just going through the motions of the game, where now after 4 weeks, your Brawl Pass resets, and you have to regrind your Brawl Pass. So at least it keeps you on that that treadmill to keep you working towards something. So that's why I'm a fan of the monthly seasons personally. And then as far as Paint Brawl, I'm more of a fan of Paint Brawl this time than the last time. I know it's a little bit boring, like you said, to go back and revisit old themes, but I feel like with Paint Brawl specifically, the Deep Sea theme, I feel like they're doing it a lot better than when they did it when it originally came out with Otis. I felt like with Otis, maybe I'm wrong about this because this was definitely during my like lull in Brawl Stars when I took a small break for the summer. But I was not a fan of the Otis season, and I think it's a general consensus that that was the worst season in Brawl Stars. When they did the Otis season the original time, I was not a fan of it. I thought Otis was a bit of a boring brawler himself, and like I could tell there was a Splatoon theme because like Otis is a squid, and like they were going underwater, and like Otis shot paintball, so like I could tell they were hinting at Splatoon a little bit with some of and also with some of the skins like the Bell skin, the Fang skin. But I feel like this update around here, like they're definitely doubling down and like they're really leaning into the Splatoon inspirations, because not only is the season called Paint Brawl, but we're also getting a Splatoon themed mode, like we already talked about, and also the skins. All the skins scream Splatoon when you look at them. So it's like all of this, it gets me more excited because like like I said, I feel like they're just doing way better at nailing the theme that they were going for, as opposed to the first time where it was just like, oh yeah, this is also a little bit Splatoon themed, like it's just like a whisper. Where this time they're like, we're doing Splatoon, let's do it.
Yeah, and I like when I mentioned the Brawl Pass thing, I know I'm in the minority when I say I like the 2-month season better than the 1 month, because I know basically everyone likes the 1 month system, and I do agree with you there that I feel this season did justice to the Deep Sea Brawl theme as a whole. Yeah. Because that update was very underwhelming. Not only just the brawler, but the update itself. Like, I don't really remember what we even got in it. I think there was the mystery mode, and I think that was just basically reusing what was already in the game.
Right.
So, yeah, I feel like this season update did justice to that season, and I guess that's all you can do is, if you are going to revisit it, how can you take it to the next level and evolve that update, rather than, because if this update was worse, like if the way they brought back the theme was worse than the original, then I think that there would be like no like arguing that it would be a bad idea to bring back themes. But if they are able to evolve that, then yeah, I think it's a good idea in that sense.
Yeah, I think doing the same theme twice, but trying to do it better the second time is a perfectly fine thing to do. I don't know if they necessarily nailed that, because like you said, they've already redone a couple different seasons. So like you said, the Western theme, they've done that a couple of times, and I don't know if they've done it better, but I know this time specifically they're doing it better. So I'm hype about that. Back to the 2-month seasons. I think another thing about the 2-month seasons is that they would do multiple themes throughout the season, and the original idea of the season would get lost when you as you progress through it. Like I can remember specifically, I don't remember what the exact theme was, but I can remember being on stream and like talking about everything and just being like, wait, do you guys remember that this was supposed to be this theme? And everyone was like, whoa, I forgot about that. Because like they would do the theme for like a week. There would be like 2 skins released for it, and then they would move right on to the next thing, and you would forget what the main theme of the season was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's true. And honestly, I think it only lasts like the main season theme only lasted like a week and a half.
Yeah.
And then you'd have like a Golden Week update and then a Halloween update. And yeah, that I do agree with, that it would get lost, like the original theme. And I think that sort of restricts them with the way the seasons are now to add like mini or update themes in a season. That would basically be like cutting off half the season, since the seasons are only like 3 to 4 weeks. So I think it's tougher for them to incorporate that now compared to what it was. But I think that's just because they're sort of limiting the amount of themes, because I remember like 2020, 2021, we'd have like constant update, like within an update. Like if like I mentioned Golden Week or Lunar New Year, that kind of thing. Like mini-year updates within an update with like a few skins and that kind of thing. So I feel like as of recently, it's sort of been on the down low. It's just sort of been like a few skins, but not really changing the theme of the season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, we are going to see the theme change quite a bit in this next month for July because we have Classic Brawl. There's supposed to be the Candyland theme. And then I think there's one other one that's mixed up in there. So it's like this July is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge, but I think August is going to settle down a little bit and just be like deep sea theme for a little bit. So we are gonna experience that a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely tamed down a little bit since they went to the monthly model, at least for the last year or so. So we did talk about Paint Brawl just a little bit, but I want to talk about it here just because we're on the topic about it. Do you think it could be a good 5v5 mode?
that's interesting. I never thought about that actually. I think it could. I definitely think it could. Like Knockout's like experimenting a bit with 5v5, right?
Yeah, Knockout they just added as 5v5. So right now our 5v5 modes are Gem Grab, Brawl Ball, and Knockout.
And I think like the change they made to Knockout was great, where if you die, you kind of give the power over to the remaining teammates.
Yeah, where they get like a 10%
and that's a
or
perfect
20% buff.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to do that, because without it, it's just like a 1v5, and then you're basically screwed. So I feel like with the kind of like Paint Brawl mode, I feel it'd be even better, because when you like, it depends on the size of the map, because the map could get quite large and it would be tough to like cover the entirety in paint. That's the only maybe issue that there might be.
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
Just to think of like the size of it.
So,
but
yeah,
apart from that, yeah, I could totally see it working.
Yeah, my idea was like they would put us on like a showdown size map, which, like you said, could be a little tough. But I mean, it could be cool too. The mode would last a little bit longer. I think one thing that they could do if they did make it into a 5v5 mode, and I literally just thought about this as we're talking about it, is that they could actually make it so you get a movement speed buff when you're on your own paint, and you get a nerf to your movement speed when you're on other people's paint. So like it would limit like how far and like overextended you could get and stuff like that. I think that would be a fun variation. I don't know how balanced it would be. It could make it so like horrible, but it could also help by having the paintball moving around the map too. I feel like because that'll give you a path to actually walk through things. So like maybe that could be a way of going around it. But that's just an idea. Like obviously they would never like, or they don't have to do something like that. But I think that would be a fun way to make it different and stand out from the 3v3 variation.
Totally. And on that note, like with the 5v5 mode, if we were to say they were using a bigger size map, I feel like the bigger the map, the less encouragement for players to attack each other. Like I feel like when you're condensed, your goal is to like attack your opponents. But the bigger the map, the more it just encourages for you to just go off on your own and try and cover the map without encouraging actual like interactions with your opponents.
Right.
So if they were to incorporate that in some sense, like to encourage attacking, I feel like it would work much better than if you were to just have like a standard map for a 5v5.
Yeah, I guess standard map might be a little bit better just because, like you said, it could discourage people from fighting, and then like if you're not fighting and you're not killing each other, then you're not filling the map up with paint, so it could just end up in a lot of stalemate-y stuff, or like it would be like low percentage wins, so like 60% to one team, 40% to the other, or something like that. So maybe putting it on too big of a map would be a mistake. So I see your points there. So that's actually all my questions. The last thing I got is, you got any goals for your summer? Whether that's in your real life or if that's in Brawl Stars or YouTube.
This summer, I'm like, my main goal, I think, is just hoping to reach 70k subs.
Oh yeah.
Like the wild goal would be to reach 100 by the end of the year, but I know it's probably like impossible just at the rate I'm going, but I don't know. I'm hoping that like that's kind of my goal this summer, is to grind out more with the content, and like if I hit 70 subs, then it's sort of like the final stretch from there, I feel. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Congrats on 60k, by the way. I mean, I know you just hit that like last week.
Thank you.
That's exciting. That's a huge milestone. I think you can get 100k by the end of the summer. Or not by the end of the summer. No, I mean it could be. Maybe you release one banger video.
Yeah.
No, by the end of the year, I think you can get 100k. I think you could do it. You're great. Yeah, I think for me, I just want to make sure I'm uploading consistently, whether that's just streams or like videos themselves. Luckily, one of my best videos series, the skin review series, has been doing well, and we're getting no shortage of bad skins this update. So I mean, like, I can definitely just bang out a bunch of those if I have to. All right, so that's all I got. You got any questions for me before we?
I do. I have one question.
Oh yeah, shoot.
I've sort of been pondering on it for a while, but if there was one thing you could add to Brawl Stars and it be anything, what would that be?
If there's one thing I could add to Brawl Stars and it would be anything I could have, what would it be? All right, so you put me on the spot here. Wasn't prepped for this question, but let's go with.
I know.
Let's go with something that's really fun for me. I would like to. All right, so there's a game mode Payload, right? Now, Payload was a mode that I wanted in Brawl Stars for a very long time. Not Payload itself, the way it is now, but I used to be like more into Overwatch, and that's kind of where I got that game mode from, because they have I can't remember what they call it over there, but it's the same idea. You stand next to a truck, it moves through a map, you defend the truck. When people stand next to the truck, it stalls out the progression through. Now, Overwatch does it different in that the map's a lot bigger, and one team pushes the truck at a different time. So I would like to see Brawl Stars actually adopt that exact model in their game. So basically, one team would push the cart through a showdown size map, and the other team would have to stall to try to delay it. Now, you can move the spawns so that they're closer. So like when you're, say like team A is on the left side and they need to push it to the right side. So the spawns for team B would be at one, if they, like at the beginning, it would be at one spot closer. And then as they move through, the spawns get pushed back a little bit further to the right. I feel like that would be fun. And then each team cycles to push it. So I would like that type of rework for Payload, because I think Payload has the potential to be a very good mode. They just don't do it right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like when it was released, like from the Brawl Talk, like everything I feel looks cool in Brawl Talk, but once you actually sit down and look at it, you realize, oh, this is like kind of crap.
Yeah.
Like I remember playing it for the first time. I'm like, what is this? I'm like sitting beside it and it's moving. I'm like, yeah, this is not fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree with it needs some changes. And like when they added it, have we not seen it since they added it?
They brought it
like,
back.
Did it come back at all?
They brought it back the last summer with Doug, because I remember trying to play it with Muyo and Blizz when I was trying to do my Doug 25 push, and we were not doing well in it. It was hilarious. But yeah, they did do a couple of things with it. I think they made it so that you couldn't attack through the cart anymore, which was one of the things that was broken, because like BB and Jackie could just camp out next to the cart, and if you tried to stall the cart, they would just attack you off of it or through the cart, and you really couldn't do too much about it. But other than that, they really, I mean, it was better, but it still wasn't a good mode. So yeah. I feel like having each team giving each team a chance to push the cart individually while the other team tries to defend, I feel like that's a bit better. Like that's the way the mode was intended to be played. That's why it works in Overwatch and it doesn't work in Brawl Stars.
Yeah.
Or bring back Siege, because I do miss Siege. What about you? What would you like to see added to Brawl Stars?
Unfortunately, I think you're...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, I think you're the only one that misses Siege. You and Kairos. But
OG Siege was the best, all right? I don't know if you played OG Siege, but like, dude, the 5-6 minute long matches where you got double trophies when you were with a good team was so much fun. Like, you could push so much faster, and the game was actually harder back then because like trophy pushing was a lot more punishing. So like, it was just a lot more fun to push at twice the rate than you would be able to now. Nowadays, though, it is a little bit easier to push because, you know, matchmaking is a little more forgiving and we get win streaks. So that you could still win almost double trophies. But I guess with old OG Siege format with double trophies and all that and win streaks, it would be a little bit broken to push trophies. You could probably win 30 trophies in one game. Yeah. Anyway, what would you like to see added into Brawl Stars if you could have one thing?
If I could add one thing, like I've always wanted to see like a mode maker mode, like where you construct like new game modes, because I feel like that's the best thing about Brawl is all the different types of game modes and the different ways to play.
Yeah.
Like the way, for instance, Map Maker is right now. it's like in a terrible state. I don't even think anyone plays it. Like, honestly, it'd either be reworking Map Maker in some form, like completely rehauling it and reforming it and then releasing it, or just introducing a new mode maker to the game, because I feel that would encourage a lot more creativity within not only like the community but the game itself, and then like seeing that mode come temporarily like inside the game. So
yeah, even if it was just for a day or
yeah,
whatever,
I feel like that could be cool.
Like what they do with Map Maker
Exactly.
now, but like instead of it being a different map, it's a different map in a mode. That would be interesting. It's
yeah, because I feel like that would. Sorry.
No, go. You're good. You're the guest.
I was just gonna say, I feel like that would encourage a lot more people to play it, because with the map, it's just a map, but it's the same mode, like Showdown with a little bit of different bushes here and blocks there. But if it's a whole different mode, people will want to try that out, and they'll be like, "What's this? How does it work?" And then I feel like that would encourage a lot more players to that area of the game as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I feel like Map Maker was a lot of fun in the beginning because like they had trophies tied to it, which was I think a big mistake. But also like people did things interesting with the maps. So like you think like Heist, they had the boat mode in Heist where like you could, each team was on an island and you had to get to the other island or shoot across the water to attack the safe. Now, obviously that wasn't the most fun thing all the time, but it was interesting and people were like more or less excited about it. Plus it was easy trophies. Sorry. And then other than that, it was like they've done some things like where you have to like work through a map to get to the mine and gem grab or something like that. So it's like people did interesting things with the modes we have, but it lost its luster after a little while, and they haven't touched Map Maker ever since, I don't know what, 2 months, 3 months after it first initially dropped, and ever since then it's kind of just been like whatever. Which is weird because like
and I'm hoping
go ahead. You're hoping?
Sorry.
No,
I was just gonna say, I'm hoping that they are working on something behind the scenes. Like, I have my fingers crossed that they've been developing some changes to Map Maker, to then just surprise the community with like a whole like rehaul to the way the system is. But like, I don't know, like, is that one of their priorities? Like at this time, I don't think it is, but I do have hope.
Yeah. It would make sense because like you think about games like Roblox or Minecraft where like they're so big because like, and they've lasted so long because of the creativity of the users and being able to do and make certain different things. Like you think about the crazy builds people do in Minecraft or the crazy game modes people make in Roblox, and like having something like that in Brawl Stars would benefit it infinitely because the creativity of players is endless because you have a conglomerate of millions of people just doing different things and coordinating about doing different things. So I think that would be cool if they can implement it in some way. I don't know how they would implement a mode maker, but doing something different with like if they could implement some kind of mode maker, we could get crazy things out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about gonna do it. So Michael, I want to thank you again for coming on. I feel like this is probably one of the best podcasts I've done in a very long time. Not that, not to like discredit like anyone else, but I feel like you and I had a great conversation here. Anything you want to part the guests with before we leave?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure, and I hope to do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, man. All right, everyone. If you don't know, Michael has a code. Use code Michael in the shop. He is a super creator. He's a great guy, and he's got a smaller community, so he could use your revenue if you do. And also, go check out his channel. Link's going to be in the description. He does a lot of lore videos. He's also, like he said, trying to experiment with some other things. He did more or less a skin review of the Rico skin, so if you want to go check that out, he gets the special creator perks of actually being able to use it on their secret server. So make sure you go check out Michael's video. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Want to thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.